guys! I never know how people start these videos. Today I'm going to bring you my first tutorial. It's a very gradient, colorful, shimmery eye look. If you want to see how to get this look, just keep watching. Okay, so we're going to start with my Tarte Shape Tape. I'm going to take a bit of this and use it to prime my lids. Having a base helps your eyeshadows blend better, but also, since this Tarte Shape Tape is so much lighter than my skin tone, because I bought the wrong shade, it's going to really brighten some of those brighter colors I used today underneath. Alright, my lids are primed. So next I'm going to go into this Alamar Cosmetics palette. I really love this palette. I don't know, it just has a really nice variety of shades, and you've got some mattes here, but also some really colorful shimmers, and it's a nice palette. It's a good combination. So first, I'm going to take a very fluffy brush and dip into Cocoa Taxi. Sweep this through the upper crease sort of area, so it's okay if it sort of blends out a bit and is, you know, blowy and smoky and such, because you're already drawing attention, so you may as well keep it. I'm going to take a little bit more of that same color and just sort of really focus it on the inner part. Next I'm going to take another brush, and this one's still pretty fluffy. It's a Morphe M505. It's still pretty fluffy, but you can see it's a bit pointier and a bit more tapered, so it'll be able to get into that crease a little more than the other one could. And I'm going to take the lighter shade Tropico and do that sort of, I'm going to start right in the middle and then blend side to side. Ordinarily with darker shades I stay towards the edge, but with this, since we're keeping our warmer tones towards the front and our cooler tones towards the back, this color kind of needs to be a bit more front and center. And then, just to make sure it's blended out and not too harsh, I'm going to go back into Cocoa Taxi and smooth out those edges a bit more, especially towards the front. I'm going to go into the Lauralee Party Animal palette. This one's fun. It's bold, I'll say, but it's fun. And I really like it because it's so small that it's easy to take along, you know, your neutral palette that has all your colors, and you can just throw this one into for your fun little thing, you know, if you're going on a vacation, that is. It won't take up all of your space with these, you know, looks that you might use less often. Karaoke, this super dark blue shade, and I'm gonna pat this right on the edges. And then I'm gonna go into Hungover, the purple shade, and just take a little bit, not a whole lot of that, on the very edge. And you can sort of get that up into the crease a bit. I'm gonna go back to a bit of a fluffier brush, and I'm gonna take Bottoms Up, this shimmery pink in here, and really tap off some of the excess, and then go here just to kind of blend these darker shades and the purpley colors into that original darker red. This is one of those looks that's gonna look a little bit funny until the end, and then it kind of pulls all together. That sometimes happens, especially with colorful looks. You have to trust the process. Back to our original just fluffy brush and that light brown shade we used, and blend, blend, blend. I want to say too that, like, I try and keep it to, you know, a minimum amount of palettes for this tutorial, but just because this one has so much color and difference, it's hard sometimes to find that in one palette. But you don't necessarily have to have the same palettes that I do by any means. I know, like, NYX sells some really bright shades for cheaper, and I don't know, there are a lot of good, NYX is a really good one, honestly, but there are a lot of good cheaper brands, ColourPop, that have, you know, bright, fun shades too that you can use. You don't have to have, actually I think the Alamar palette is pretty cheap, but you know, you don't have to have the super fancy ones to achieve this effect. The only thing that I think is a really unique shadow that I'm going to use is this El Malecon. I have not found another shadow like this. It's truly amazing, honestly. I love it a lot. I'm gonna take my, this is sort of one of the stars of this look, is the Stila Magnificent Metals Glitter and Glow in Rose Gold Retro. It's a liquidy glittery eyeshadow that just has, these have so much punch. I love them so much. I'm gonna start this on the outer corner, really focus it there, and just sort of blend it up. Not all the way to the edge, but about halfway towards the middle. I'm gonna let it dry for a second so it really sets in. I really wipe it off on the edges first, because otherwise you'll get a lot. Sorry, I'm gonna really be messing with my lights this first time, because I'm not a video editor yet. Okay, now that we've sort of let that set in a bit, we're gonna go into our Alamar palette. We're gonna take Rodeo. It's kind of a very dark blue with reflective, sort of similar to that Party Animal one. I originally put the Party Animal down to get that vibrancy and that really blue color, but this will sort of deepen it up and blend it a bit more with that rosy color. Then I'm gonna take Celia. It's similar, it's a much more green blue. It looks really green on camera, but it's a sort of teal-y shade. And I'm gonna put that sort of right on the edge of that blue to give it a bit more gradient into the rose gold of the Stila eyeshadow. Take my original brush, this one, and I'm not adding any extra product, but I am just gonna sort of blend here. This is really the key to getting a really nice eyeshadow look, and you know, any sort of eyeshadow work really, but it's just go back and forth, honestly. Like, I go back to my initial brush a lot over the process just to really make sure the colors are blending together and not, you know, sticking in harsh parts of my eyelid, you know, like purple, green, brown, or whatever it may be. It just really brings everything together. Okay, and then last but not least, for the top of the eyes, we're gonna take El Malecon, which again is that one that I just can't tell you what else to get, honestly. One day I'll find a dupe for it, but I'm in love with it right now, and I'm just gonna take a little bit on my finger. I'm even gonna tap it off just a bit on my arm because this is a really pigmented shadow. Sort of tap that right in the center, kind of over that green, between it and the Rose Gold Retro eyeshadow. And just sort of tap with a clean finger, not the one that had it on it originally, kind of tap around it to blend it in a bit more. And do you see that? Is that just me, or is that freaking gorgeous? It's not just me. And take a bit more of that Tropico. Do one last sort of little bit of that to define. And then, again with the Laura Lee, sorry to switch palettes so much, I know that can be annoying. Go into a bit more of that pink, bottoms up, and do that towards the edge. Just gonna take a little bit of that Stila in the very inner corner and reapply a bit there because it kind of fell down, or blended away, I mean. Okay, that's where we're gonna leave the eyes for right now. Yeah, so we have that nice gradient from the... I'm only doing this because my light, I haven't figured out lights yet, guys, I'm sorry. We're gonna move on to our foundation now that we've gotten a lot of that glitter out of the way. Thankfully, like I said, there's not really a whole lot of fallout from these eyeshadows, which is really awesome for bright and for glittery colors. This is really old school YouTube. I don't know if anybody actually still uses this anymore, but it's the Nivea Men post-shave balm. Not only is it really cool and refreshing, but it's moisturizing and it works really well as a primer. I still use it on occasion. Don't know if anybody else does, but I enjoy it. It's really refreshing, especially if you're going to use kind of a... Oh, it smells so good. Especially if you're going to use sort of a more matte foundation, or if you have drier skin like I do, that kind of thing. It's a really good choice. I'm gonna go for Maybelline Matte and Poreless in 112. First I'm gonna take a foundation brush. Just put a little on my hand. Oh, that is not a little. Oh well, guess we're going for more high coverage today. I'm gonna tap into it and sort of pat it around. Not worrying about blending it in yet. First I'm just getting it on my face. Now that I sort of patted it on with the foundation brush, you can tell it's obviously not blended very well, but I feel like doing it with a brush first gives me coverage, and then I take my like wet beauty sponge and I sort of do the last blending layer. But that way, oh, by the way, this is the Eco Tool sponge. That way the beauty blender doesn't pull off so much of the product, which I feel like when you just do it with a sponge the whole time, it really sort of shears out and soaks up some of that makeup. Teddy's staring at me because I'm talking to myself. Now we're gonna help out my dark circles that are supporting me through college. I'm gonna start with the NYX color corrector in orange. Color correctors are seriously a freaking godsend, I swear. I never used to use them because I was like always like, A, that seems so excessive, B, like it's gonna make me look orange or whatever. But honestly, it makes such a big difference for me because I have huge dark circles, and you just get one that's slightly, I don't know how well you can see the difference, but it's like peachier than I am, and so it sort of cancels out that darkness there and lifts it up a bit, so I look a little less dead. And then I take a bit of concealer. I'm going to use the Maybelline Fit Me and put it over, because after you use a color corrector you do need to put a little concealer on just to make sure that you don't look too orange, because you don't want to fully blend away the color corrector or you lose the point of the color corrector, which is to cover that and cancel it. But if you just put a bit of concealer over it, it gets rid of that color but keeps the coverage. I gotta tell you, the weirdest thing about this for me right now is how quiet it is. I always do my makeup with a podcast playing or the TV on or something going, you know, because I get bored too easily, but it's so quiet when I'm just filming this. I'm gonna use this. It's the Coty Airspun Loose Face Powder. It's really nice. You can get it at Walmart. I really like how it looks, but I will warn you, it smells like your grandmother. If you're kind of sensitive to smells or don't like the smell of your grandmother, don't buy this powder. And I'm just gonna take a bit of that and pat it underneath my eyes to keep that concealer from sinking into my eye creases and moving around and etc, because I really need that concealer to do its job. I also like to do this here just because your T-zone, is, does everybody know that? I don't know. I'm trying to be helpful, but anyway, that's the part of my face that tends to get more oily, have a bit more problems, etc, so it helps cover it up. Dust away all that powder. Too Faced Milk Chocolate Solei Bronzer. It's the slightly lighter one. I'm gonna use this Makeup Geek blush in XOXO. It's pretty bright pink, but it has a bit of a peachy undertone, which I think will complement well. And I'm just gonna take a blush brush, this one to be exact. It's really soft and loose, because the thing I'm worst about, my greatest fear, is I hate how it looks when people are way over blushed, so I'm always really careful with my blushes. And this one, I will warn you, is not for the faint of heart. It's a very pigmented blush. You have to be careful with it, but it is really pretty. So I'm gonna like tap in there lightly and then still like knock it off. There we go. Nice. My Ofra Rodeo Drive Highlighter. It's a very gold sort of highlight, which will work well with this golden thing we got going on our eyes. There are always 40% off Ofra coupons floating around in the universe, so don't buy Ofra full price, honestly. Before I jump back to my eyes, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna do my brows real quick. I'm gonna take the Brow Gal. This one's in 02, and it just has shades of brown. I'm gonna start with the darkest shade of brown here. Carve out the shape of my eyebrows that I want, and then I sort of fluff it up and blend it up into the rest of my brow. Because I obviously already have a lot of brow fullness, it's mostly shape that I try and, you know, define a bit more so my brows aren't too wily. And then I'm going to take a bit of the lightest shade and do this towards the front. It just adds a bit of oomph. It's not a huge step. I don't spend 80 years on my brows because I don't have that kind of patience. I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. Now finally we'll go back to our eyes. I'm going to take a fluffy brush. You want to use a little bit more of a like pointed fluffy brush though, just so you don't get too all over the underneath of your eyes. And I'm going to just go into Tropico. You have to use very little of these eyeshadows, so, you know, don't overdo it. Kind of angled brush, it's very small and stiff. And I'm going to go into Rodeo, the dark blue. Put a bit of this right sort of on the edges. Keeping it focused over there, but it can blend down a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of wipe off any excess. And I'm going to take Celia again, the greenish blue. I'm going to put this right in the middle area. And then just a little bit of El Malecón. The Stila eyeshadow. I'm actually still going to use this, again, I just kind of wipe off my brushes a bit in between. Still going to use this angled brush just because you want it kind of precise. And this applicator can be a bit stiff and a bit thick. So this will help you kind of keep that precision. Then, just to define the eyes a little bit, I'm going to take some eyeliner. This one is from the LA Girl Glide Gel Liners in Limelight. And I'm going to put this in my waterline. Then all we have to do is mascara, but before mascara I do my setting spray, just because I don't want my mascara to get watery and smear more, so I'm using the Milani Make It Last. I'm going to take the Essence Lash Princess Mascara, and it's the green one, the False Lash Effect. Last is lipstick. What I'm going to use is Ofra Americano. I think it'll balance nicely. Usually, and this is by no means a rule, it's definitely a rule I've broken before, but with really heavy sort of colorful, big, bold eye looks, you want to use more neutral lipstick because you don't want that competition between your eyes and your mouth. Okay, I'm going to take my hair down, give you the full effect. There's your finished look. We've got that beautiful gradient colorful shimmer, but to me I think, I don't know, I'm not a good judge of wearable. I'd wear like black smoky eyes to the grocery store, so take it what you will, wear it where you want, enjoy your life, love makeup, continue, and thanks for watching my first video. I hope you'd enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. If you want to keep seeing looks like this, subscribe, like this video, let me know how you feel in the comments, and yeah. If you have a dupe for El Malecón, tell me in the comments. But I'll see you guys later. Thanks. I'm gonna edit this out. Can I just edit out the whole video?